What's going on, guys? Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this table talk today. We found Mike. He just showed up this morning randomly, got a workout in. But then we also have a special guest here. This is Dallas Gant. He plays for The Ohio State University football team. So we're going to dive into one of the hottest topics right now going on in the sports world, especially yours in particularly. And like I said, I want to start with you, and then Mike and I can definitely weigh in. Should student athletes be paid? What's your take on that?
It's a great question. Appreciate you for letting me come in. Should athletes be paid? I totally think so.
Okay.
We get stipend basically, because some people don't know this. We get some money just to be able to live, pay for food, stuff like that. But sometimes it's not enough. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like all the money that's brought in from the program, like people that benefit, like people that you don't even think about, like Uber drivers.
Yeah.
Tons of money on game day, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And then we get no compensation for any of that. Coaches get paid millions.
Yeah.
Through the organization, they get paid millions. You know, it's just a lot of money, and it's just finding a way to get us some of the money. I think is a really big step.
I mean, I've always, I guess, thought that like there should be. I mean, being a student, I mean, let's face it, we've all been there. You're dirt broke, right? Like you go to school full time. If you're working, you know, typically you have a part-time job, maybe several. Maybe you can't get the right hours at certain places, so you're working multiple jobs. You being on the football team, you literally have a full schedule.
Right.
You're playing football 40 hours a week, roughly, which is a full-time job. On top of that, you got to be a student. And on top of that, you probably got to go to study tables, tutoring, etc. Right? So your time constraint is so limited. So like, really, where do you have that time to find a job? You don't, right? Mike, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, I really never looked into this all that much. I was never a student athlete in college. But I mean, if there is some if there's lack, yeah, it should be talked about between you and your coaches, or you and the student, the athletic director. I just don't know what the details are. I just am ignorant to the fact.
So this literally just passed. Like this was like a huge thing all over the news. Like the NCAA is like, it literally just happened. What was it, like last 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So
July 1st.
So then what that did, that gave the opportunity for them to get contracts, to be compensated for, like, to essentially generate revenue off their name, right? It's no different than the NFL.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good.
So this kind of leads me into my next question. How much are these contracts worth? Are we talking, thousands of dollars? Are we talking multi-million? Like, I guess, like, what would that look like?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on like what you're looking for and what type of person you are. Like there's crazy contracts already, like a Tennessee commit got like a $2 million contract already.
Jesus!
Whoa! Or something like that. He's somebody's son, but he's a basketball player. So it kind of just depends. Like some company can reach you and be like, can you post this on social media? I'll give you $50 for it. Or you can be like, can you be a part of my company and come to events and stuff like that, and I'll give you a couple $1,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So it kind of depends who you are, depends what you're kind of looking for, short term, long term, and it's really the beginning of all this stuff. Yeah. So we really don't know how it's going to pan out and how much money it's all involved in.
Yeah, if I could add something too.
Yeah.
Though I don't know the details, I would say in general, if you are adding value to something, you should get compensated in some capacity.
Yeah.
Like whether it's money or, I mean, of course, most or a lot of athletes get full rides, half rides, whatever it is. But if you're giving more than you're getting, I mean, that's not right. I mean, bottom.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it like this. I graduated from Ohio State. The one thing that we always talked about was just different sport generation, right? In terms of revenue and everything else. I think there was some crazy calculation that I think the football team by itself, like if every other sport did not generate a dime of revenue, I'm pretty sure the football team by itself could pay for every kid's tuition twice over and pay for every other sport, something like that. It was insane.
Of the whole school?
The entire school. 60 some odd thousand kids. You know what I mean? That's the type of numbers that the football team is generating. Yeah. And to his point, coaches are making a ton of money, and then they're the ones that, like I said, he's getting stipend money. You know what I mean? That's to live and everything else. And that that's crazy to me. Like I said, I'm glad that this has actually come to fruition. I didn't know, I guess the details. $2 million. I was kid getting that a year? Or is that just over so many years?
I think it's over a couple of years. I assume it is. It's no way it's 1 year.
I was gonna say, gosh, he's making more money than some people in the NFL at that point. Literally, just you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All those people out there get league minimum are like, wait, can I go back to school for a year?
That's crazy.
So I think it's crazy. I think it is great that like this opportunity has come about. Like we always talked about, my major being in sports management, we always talked about a lot of different aspects of this. I told you this before we came on. And then Alex and I did a table talk on this as well. We were talking about, you know, now that student athletes can be paid, and this is more of the philosophical version of it, does that transfer and make that student athlete now a pro? Because now you're being paid. Though you're not being paid to play the sport, you're being paid for your name, right? And your, you know, the name that you created and stuff like that in the sport. So that was always a big topic. Like I've been on both sides of the argument and stuff like that. But anyway, what is your, philosophically, the difference between an amateur and a pro? Not necessarily like in this situation, but just amateur versus pro.
Yeah, so to your point, we had to talk, like, this has obviously been the works for a long time. And, our AD, Gene Smith, talked to us before, and the difference I think is as a pro, you're getting paid to play.
Yeah.
So like we're not, it's a name and likeness. It's paid for being, I'm Dallas Canada. I get paid for being Dallas Canada, not being a football player, not for my work on the field. So Gene Smith told us like this, like if we go to the direction where we pay you for playing the sport, then I have to treat you like an employee. And so you have to be here on time or I have to fire you, you know what I'm saying? So you can't. So basically, but being here, I can be a student athlete, I can be late to practice if I'm not late to practice, but like be late to practice. I can not excel like at the rate that I'm supposed to, and I can still be here because it's not a contract to be here, and I'm not getting paid to be on the field, I'm getting paid for my name.
Yeah.
And the pros, if you're messing up and they don't think you're a good fit and stuff like that, then they'll just fire you right there and then.
Yeah, that is a really good way to look at it actually. I like that, the difference between an employee, right, and a student. That is actually really good. We never even talked about that.
I didn't think about that either.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good comparison there. We always talked about the revenue, and like I said, I graduated college 7 years ago, so it's been some time since like I was at the very beginning stages of that. I mean, they had been talking about it for years, but like I was in when a lot of those guys were just really starting to like make a hard push for it. Like Cardell was in school, dude, like when I was there. You know what I mean? It was a while ago. So the biggest thing then, and when we were talking about it, like though they were talking about generating revenue off their name, like it still was, and like the one consistent argument that's come back, and it's come back just like what I had said, is like, and you separated the difference, is like you're being paid based on you as opposed to your performance on the field,
Right.
which is huge. You know, I think doing that really separates, like I do consider that still an amateur at that point, you know, and that was always the argument back and forth in class, like, you know, what we're being paid and everything else. So, and then where do you see this going in the future? Like, do you see this really growing and like everybody getting those $2 million deals, or do you see this, like, I don't know if you follow Barstool Sports on social media, but that guy literally signed like, I think like what, 20 what is it, Alex, 20 athletes or something like that? Yeah, it's something unreal. Like, I think the first day. Yeah. Like, like I really just saw like every name, like from all these different schools, every sport, like just getting paid. I'm like, Jesus, like this guy's working out a fortune.
It's definitely gonna grow. It's like, well, you can go all the way back to when you're recruiting in high school. So now there's so much more things to look at. So like where you're located, the opportunities that you'll have there, like USC in California, you'll have different opportunities than you will in Ohio. I'm not saying they're better, but just different opportunities if you want to look forward to maybe filmmaking or stuff like that. Yeah. So that plays a role, and then how big you are coming out of high school, that impacts your value basically as a person when you come to high school or college basically. Yeah. So it's gonna, I think it's gonna change in a crazy way. I mean, this is just the beginning stages, and crazy stuff is already going on. But I mean, there's so many opportunities you get paid for literally anything, and money, just clothes, anything. It just helps student athletes so much. And back to kind of circling around, like one of the biggest benefiters is from this is walk-ons. Oh, yeah. Walk-ons do the same thing I do, same thing that guy next to me does, same thing that starting quarterback does, but they don't get anything. Yep. Like they have to work, they have to find a way, which there's not that much time to do. Yep. And so being able to benefit from this, completely huge, because they pay full tuition, go to school, and then do everything that we do. Now they find a way to get paid. Do you think now that like, so obviously I assume that your goal when you were in high school was try to go to the NFL, right? So obviously like everybody that's playing a sport is like, you know, I want to go pro, I want to do this, I want to do that. Do you think that like Ohio State, who is like one of the biggest schools in the country, compared to like one of like the MAC schools or something like that, not to pick on them, but they're significantly smaller than you guys,
do you think a lot of those athletes that like are kind of like on the border of, you know, being able to play like high level D1 are like now going to be like, no, I have to play at that school, otherwise my name is not going to get me the stuff that like it might at a smaller school?
Maybe for sure, but one of the things with that is I think that like, let's say like I went to Toledo, I'm from Toledo.
Okay.
Let's say if I went to Toledo, I think a lot of opportunity would be from there because it's my hometown. So not just because I'm from a big school, Ohio State, Columbus. It's obviously there's a lot of money and revenue around that, but I think that, you know, smaller schools, I think they'll be just as appreciative for big stars and stuff like that to come to their school.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of money anywhere you go. It's just kind of how you pick and choose to do it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What do you think, Mike?
About what? About the big school versus small school thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Oh god.
Yeah, I would say that's a riskier. That's gonna happen. But some of these smaller schools are private schools, and they might actually have certain trusts and certain donors that say, you know what, you find a star athlete, I'll give $100,000 to that dude for 4 years. Who knows? I mean, it all depends. I think hopefully this will make it so that it may make it more competitive, letting college students be paid now for their name, because now it might be some small school in the middle of Ohio where they have those kind of donors. Like, they went there, that's their alma mater, and they say, you know what, I've done well for myself, I'm going to donate to this program more now, and not only can I donate to the program, now I can help find students. And who knows, that might help, I don't know.
How do you guys both feel that's going to do in terms of like recruiting? Like, do you think that like a big, like a Toledo or something like that, that's like a small town school, like do you think that they're going to have greater influence over kids from that area? Like, do you think they're going to be like, well, you know, like we're tied to these 7 companies that are like multi-billion-dollar companies or something like that? Like, think like you brought up LA, like in the film industry, you know, let's say that like, I'm making it up, like Kevin Hart or something like that, like starts having influence over people, like The Rock, like these like high-end like actors and stuff like that. Do you think that is going to start having an influence over people? Like, these schools are going to go to like these big people and just be like, hey, like, you know, we really want this kid, like, can you reach out to him?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's a big thing that can happen. Like, it can go any direction. Like, this is really, like, even our compliance people are still trying to figure it out, like the rules and stuff like that. But that's definitely, I think that's a big part of recruiting, because schools that might not get like players that we would get, Alabama and Clemson would get, the people like in great areas like New York or LA with a lot of opportunity outside of football can now kind of bring people in and show them, like, obviously they're showing the football side, they're showing the school side, but now they can show them like the real life side of like what you want to explore. So like, ask the kid, what's your major? And you say, we talking about film, this film, well, we got this here, this guy here, Kevin Hart's coming this day, talking to you about this, want you to work for his company, this, that, and the other, and get paid that way. So I think it's a lot of opportunity outside of football and outside of school. You know what I'm saying?
If somebody wanted to sponsor you, I guess, how does that work? Like, do you have direct communication with that company or that person, or do you have to run it through Ohio State? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so one of the big pushes is it's on you, how you do it. We have things to like disclose the information to make sure that we are doing it the right way and stuff, but basically any sponsorship, any deal, anything like that, it's really on you. And then like, you just got to make sure you're doing it the right way, so it's not a violation or anything like that. So if you wanted to make a sponsor deal with somebody, like with, let's just say Nike, just for random, then you would do that yourself. Whether you're allowed to get an agent now, whether you have an agent or you do it with your parents, or you do it by yourself, you do that. Ohio State can either approve it or decline it, but they would simply look at it and be like, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Just breaking the rules.
Just to make sure like they're good and there's no violation.
Right.
What?
I was debating about asking you a question, but you gave me that blank stare.
No, ask me, I'm already.
Okay, so like what type of companies, Mike, do you think, like I know that you're a football fan, like what type of companies do you think are going to be like the big people that are going after these student athletes as opposed to like a pro?
Well, it could be anybody. So kind of like what I mentioned before, where there may be an alma mater of a school. They may say, well, you know what, though I'm a fan of this school, or though like this school's the big one and blah, 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 they might say, they might go to some podunk school where they're like, you know what, I want to beef up their football program, I want to beef up their basketball, the golf program, for all we know, and it might just be more private donation, is what I'm thinking. But if they're tied to a company, you know, say they own their own company, then that company could make some sort of program and say, hey, we're going to help students get to that next level of being a college student, a college athlete.
So like Youngstown's company is they're gonna pressure people into going, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, you know.
Mafia.
What?
I don't know.
Ooh.
They're not there.
I wasn't here.
Yeah. He can't show his face.
My name's Joe.
Yeah, his name's Joe. He's wanted in 7 countries. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, guys, that is all for today's Table Talk. That is our take on should student athletes be paid. Thank you again so much for coming out, man. It means a lot. We had a killer workout today, so definitely stay tuned for that as well. This guy's an absolute machine.
Big pump.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel sorry for anybody that he's hitting on the football field. So every other team, you might as well just run the opposite direction. He's gonna get you. All right, guys. Until next time, like, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. Thank you.
Appreciate it.